Hi all. This workshop is to provide you some basic information about your role as an academic coach, what academic coaching is, and some of the expectations of you in this position. There is a quiz in ReggieNet that you will need to take afterwards, and it is titled Roles and Expectations. And as you're taking this, please be sure that you write down any questions that you might have so that we can address it in our training together. Thanks. Academic coaching is a structured, collaborative method for supporting students' academic progress and achievement. I want to highlight the word collaborative here, as this means you're working with the student, not necessarily telling or dictating to the student what you think they should do. As a friendly reminder, what works for you may not work for the students that you'll be supporting in an academic coaching setting. You will also be providing students individualized guidance and ongoing feedback as you are working with them to achieve the goals that they've set for themselves. With that, also helping them understand the implications of their choices. So if they chose to go out with friends instead of studying for that test the next day, of course that may negatively impact the result of that exam. You will also be supporting students' academic development by assisting students with their time management, note-taking abilities, and test-taking strategies, in addition to a wide variety of other skills. In the end, we want students to become self-sufficient with personal and academic choices and achieve the goals that they've set for themselves and ultimately earn their degree from Illinois State. I'm going to take a quick moment here for some housekeeping. Your first appointment with the student will be an hour, as that appointment really is the most important. You'll be building rapport with the students, starting to set some goals with the students, and also confirming that this time works best for them. So following appointments will be either scheduled weekly or every other week for 30-minute sessions. And the students are really in the driver's seat here. How often and for how many weeks they choose to meet with you as an academic coach is really up to them. Some students will get what they need out of a coaching setting in 2 to 3 appointments, while other students may want and or need to meet with you weekly or every other week for the duration of this semester. Your first appointment, like I mentioned, you'll be working on developing some SMART goals with a student. And I want to spend a little bit of time with you right now talking about the R in SMART for realistic. This is going to be super important for you to work with students on setting realistic goals. For example, if a student never reads their textbook, it is not likely that they will all of a sudden start reading every chapter in their textbook for every class. What might be more realistic for the student is to have them select one class and just try to start reading their textbook for 15 minutes every day and breaking the chapter into smaller sections so that they can finish it in a few days. It is also not realistic for a student who maybe earned a 2.0 last semester, so all C's, to go from all C's to all A's. What might be more realistic is to look at each of their classes and think about what might be some smaller improvements that they can make in their grades. It will be very important that you document the main ideas of your appointment so that you can refer back to your notes before you meet with the student again, and so that you can answer any questions that I or another staff member on campus might have about how this student is doing. We're going to spend a little bit more time talking about some expectations of you in this role as a peer academic coach. You'll need to be on time for all trainings, meetings, and student appointments. This is non-negotiable. We will need to start on time. Your students expect you to be ready and available to meet with them. And it's expected that you show courtesy of being on time to your fellow PACs when we have our staff meetings. It is also very important that you become comfortable using Microsoft Outlook. This will be what you will need to use for your email, for your calendar. This will be how we will communicate, how you will communicate with your students, how appointments will be scheduled with you, and how others at the Advisor Center will know if you are working. It is going to be necessary that you communicate with myself or Deja, who is the graduate assistant for the peer academic coaching program, when you have any concerns about a student. So please keep us in the loop. We definitely need to know if you are concerned about a student's health and or safety as soon as possible. You will notice that on our ReggieNet site that there are resources for you as an academic coach where you can share those with students. If we will have some of those printed for you in the PAC office. But if you're looking for some additional topics, ideas, or resources, you can find those on our ReggieNet site. Many of the topics that you will chat about and work on with students are some of the academic strategies that are noted here. We'll talk more about these during our in-person training, but just so you have a general idea about some of the things that you'll spend your time talking with students about. You will also be surprised about what your students will share with you. Everything from a roommate issue to what they did on Saturday night. While all of this falls into building rapport, there is a very fine line between being a student's friend and being their academic coach. While you can listen to them about things, show interest, and ask questions, you'll also want to try and redirect the conversation back to their goals. So that touches a little bit on professional boundaries. So just to spend another minute or so chatting about that, do not share your personal social media account, cell phone number, etc. You'll be receiving a work email address, and that is the email that you'll be communicating with them through. You are certainly welcome to say hi, and when you see them on campus or at the library or whatever, you don't want to hang out with the students on the weekends or anything like that. So if you see them out and about on the weekends, I would encourage you to leave, go somewhere else. As you don't want that to blur the lines of the coach slash coachee relationship that you've built, as really your credibility as an academic coach is somewhat on the line there. So I can answer any questions that you might have about that in our in-person training session. As an academic coach, you are a role model for students. Do talk about how you've overcome challenges with classes, what it was like to talk to a professor for the first time, maybe how you had to study differently for a class, and what it's like to balance multiple classes and life all at the same time. It's okay to share that you aren't perfect and that you are a student just like them. It is also important that you listen. And that goes back to the collaborative nature of the coaching relationship. That you are trying to draw out from a student what is going on by asking open-ended questions, which will help you build rapport and create a good conversational dialogue during your appointments. It's important that you are non-judgmental with students, that if they didn't do something that you suggested, that you don't pass judgment or opinion about that. You always want to be empathetic with the student. What that means is putting yourself in that student's shoes, so how they might be thinking, how they might be feeling, um, when at the end, you're just trying to help the student be accountable to what they want to achieve and the progress they want to make towards achieving their goals. So being able to listen, empathize, build rapport. Hopefully that all will help you assist the student as they get to the end result that they are looking for. I'm going to spend a quick minute or so talking about how students get connected with an academic coach. And this is the process that any student, regardless of their year in school, so they could be a graduate student, they could be a junior, it doesn't matter. We will work with any student in an academic coaching capacity. So students can get their initial intake appointment by calling or coming into the Advisor Center. Under the University College web page titled Academic Help, students can schedule their initial appointment online on Lisa's calendar, which is great. So we're trying to remove barriers for students who need help. Once that initial appointment has been made, students will chat with Lisa for about 30 minutes or so to help identify some of the reasons that they're looking to work with an academic coach. From there, I will determine the best match for a student based on their personality and what they want to work on, and of course, availability of the student with our PACs. Once I've figured out who a student will best work with, I will send a confirmation email to the students with the academic coach copied on that, and some friendly reminders of what students will need to bring to that initial appointment, and ask the student to reply all to let both myself and you as their academic coach know that that appointment works for them. You will also receive a copy of my notes from that intake appointment, and hopefully that will give you a good baseline of what you can expect to support the students on in their coaching appointments. As an academic coach, you need to know a little bit about FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And we're also going to talk a little bit about confidentiality with this. The reason for this is because as an academic coach, you will have access to student information. In fact, all student information at Illinois State. And of course, with that access also comes responsibility and ethical decision making. So you're not looking up your friend's GPA and all of that stuff. You're only using the information that you need to do your job. Um, Educational need to know is an important facet of FERPA, and that is only using the information that you need to know about your student and that others might need to know about your student. So a fellow PAC does not have an educational need to know about the students that you are working with, and at the same time, you don't have an educational need to know about another PAC's students. A professor of one of your students also does not have an educational need to know that a student is receiving academic coaching. And so if a student requests that you share that information, please be sure to chat with Lisa more about that. As a supervisor of the academic coaching program, I always have an educational need to know about how a student is doing. An academic advisor may or may not have an educational need to know about a student's progress or what you are supporting them on so that they can assist the student as well. If you're unsure about this, please be sure to talk with Lisa. One other thing is confidentiality. So you might not always be able to promise confidentiality, but you can always be private about conversations. So you cannot promise confidentiality because there may at some point become a situation where a student has been harmed, or maybe you are concerned about a student's safety, and that is always something you will need to report. Of course, you could always be discreet in um, how you are sharing that information with Lisa, and not sharing it with everyone else at the Visor Center. But because of an educational need to know about a student's safety, confidentiality can't always be there. And as you're talking with students about what academic coaching is, that is probably something you'll want to bring up with them, that you will always do your best to be private in how they are doing as a student, that you may be talking with your supervisor about them, which is why you cannot always provide confidentiality. Of course, you can always talk to me if you have any questions about any student that you are working with. You can always talk to me about how you are doing after an appointment with a student, as um, you will care for them, and develop a good relationship with them as their academic coach. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about FERPA, you can visit the registrar's website on this slide. And that concludes our basic training about what it means to be a peer academic coach. Next, you will need to go to the quiz section in ReggieNet and take the roles and expectations quiz. Thanks.